So I picked up Etrian Odyssey V, and I haven't done one of these in a while, so I figured I'd talk about it. Full disclaimer, I've only put about 12 hours into it, and I know in most cases 12 hours is actually a lot of time to put into a game, but we all know in JRPG land that actually doesn't mean a whole lot. So 12 hours, I've beaten the first stratum, and I'd like to give my thoughts so far. So for those that don't know what Etrian Odyssey is, it's a series of first-person dungeon crawlers heralded as probably the best dungeon crawler games you can get today. The idea of the fifth one is there's a giant tree that's grown all the way up into heaven, and everybody stayed away from it for the longest time, but now the king wants people to go and start exploring it, so he's called people from all the neighboring lands to get together, adventure up the tree, and figure out what's at the top. It's not a whole lot, but it is something. I'm not hugely into the series, so I can't tell you all the changes, but I can tell you one of the major changes that I've noticed is you can actually pick different races for your characters in this one. Etrian Odyssey's always had a bunch of classes to choose from, but this is the first time I remember there being actual races. I was disappointed at first because each race has locked classes that it can play as, and each of the other races can't play as the same classes as each other's race. So for example, if you want to make a necromancer, you're making a Celestian necromancer. You can't make like an Earthlane necromancer. However, in a neat twist, once characters get to a certain point in the game, you can take your character and swap its class to any one of the classes in the game, not just the ones assigned to its race. So if you have an Earthlane and you really want to make it a necromancer later, you can class change over to being a necromancer. You just take a 5-level penalty. So if you're a level 20 Earthlane, who's, I don't know, a warrior, a dragoon, I think they're called, then you can take a 5-level handicap and go into being a necromancer, even though it wasn't one of your starting classes. I would have preferred just choosing it at the start, but I do understand why they did it. Originally, your characters could just level up in class skills, but now they can also level up in race skills. Different races have special talents tailored to them that you can put points into. Some can see in the dark, some can fish, and some can get more items from resource gathering. So if you're somebody who loves min-maxing characters, there's going to be a lot of stuff to pick through here, and I think you're going to enjoy yourself. Battles are pretty standard fare. It's your typical JRPG, our guys stand over here, your guys stand over there, and we go highest speed to lowest speed taking actions. I will say the beginning of the game, as it is with most Etrians, is pretty brutal. Like when you first start the game, you lose health very quickly. Could also be because my starting party didn't have a tank, but what can I say? I wanted a Masaru and a Harbinger and I couldn't pick. You and the enemies both have a front line and a back line, and it decides who you're allowed to hit. So if you have a swordsman in the back, for example, it can attack your opponent's front line, but the back line is too far for you to get to. You attack, you got skills, you defend, you use items. It's standard stuff. The one thing that this game brings to the table that I didn't see beforehand was union skills. Union skills are a special bar that you get that let you do something special during battle. One of the unique things about union skills is it doesn't take up your action, so you can attack and also use a union skill, and some union skills require you to combine your union bar with other characters' union bars. For example, you get a very useful move later called Full Retreat that lets you escape pretty much any battle and go back to the start of a floor. So if you have one character use it, then you have to take 2 other characters' union bars, combine all of them, and then you get to use it. It's not groundbreaking, but it does work. One of the things Etrian is very well known for is the fact that you have to draw your own maps. Some people love it, some people hate it. Honestly, your tolerance for drawing the maps is going to decide a lot of your enjoyment for this game, though in this game, I don't know if it's in the others, but in this game you can turn it off and the game will just make you a map. Though to be honest, if you have the game automatically make you a map, it sort of takes away one of the things that makes Etrian Odyssey so special, so I recommend at least trying to draw your own maps, because it is kind of fun. I will say though that for me personally, I did get a little tired of the map drawing. It could be because this is my 4th Etrian game, so I didn't turn it off per se, but I admit that I did get tired of it after a while. Mileage will vary though. Some people love it, some people don't love it as much. If you're into Dungeons and Dragons, I think you're going to love something like this because it lets you sort of take control. You can leave little notes on the map detailing where certain gathering points are or certain points of interest. Not saying it's not useful, just saying not everyone's going to love it. Battles are random, but you do also have these mid-bosses walking around called foes. Each one of them moves in a certain pattern, so you don't have to fight them if you don't want to, and when you first find them, they are going to kick the crap out of you, so you want to avoid them, but it feels really good later when you've leveled up a bit, coming back and actually being able to fight them and beat them. It sounds like a small thing, but this is a nice way to show some of your progression paying off. Once you find one of these things for the first time, they're one-shotting you, and then eventually you fight them later, and they're 2 to 3-shotting you, and then a bit later you can actually take them in a fight and beat them, even if it takes up all of your items and resources and TP, but eventually you do beat it, and it feels really good. It feels like you've actually gotten stronger and accomplished something, and it's a very smart system. If you're going into this looking for stories and motivations and character development, then you're going to want to check out the side quests. The side quests in this game are pretty well done. You can go to this tavern and talk to random people, and sometimes when you take quests, there's little things that you have to do for them, like find out more about the locations of some of the items you're looking for, find out more about the monsters you're going to be fighting. It's very immersive, and going back to my Dungeons & Dragons analogy, this game feels a lot like a video game version of Dungeons & Dragons. The NPCs do their job fine, and I can't think of any NPCs that annoyed me or I didn't like at least a little bit. Again though, if you're looking for deep story or character development, these sections are the only places you're really gonna get it. The story itself is pretty shallow beyond the whole king wanting you to climb the tower thing. I suppose if you make it to the end of the game, then finding out what's actually at the end of the tower could lead to some interesting story developments, but I don't know if I necessarily want to get that far. After putting my 12 hours into the game, I think I might actually be done with it. I know that sounds really weak, and this is going to come down to personal preference, but the fact that there's such a lack of motivation or story really holds me back from fully enjoying the game as much as I could. Take Persona Q for example. Exact same Etrian gameplay, but there's a story and likable characters. It's got the grindy combat, it's got the drawing your own maps, but it's so fun and it's so interesting that it keeps me wanting to go back into the dungeon for more because I want to unlock more content. When I'm grinding through and trying to get to that next floor, I'm not doing it because I want to get one step closer to beating the game. I'm doing it because I know once I do, there's going to be even more content, even more laughs, even more character development. It's going to be good times outside of just the feeling of accomplishment of beating a level. I mean, look at this. You can have a party with 3 tagonists and 4 tagonists, the best girl in Persona 3, Mitsuru, the best girl in Persona 4, Naoto, and 2 positively adorable characters that come bundled into one character slot. The obvious argument here is going to be that I just liked Persona Q because it's more Persona and I love Persona. There's probably some truth to that. I loved grinding through it because I loved getting more Persona. With Etrian Odyssey V, it just feels like there's nothing for me to work towards. Like when I beat a level, my reward is just going to be even more levels. And that's going to be enough for some people. Honestly, if you're just looking for a decent, challenging RPG to get into that you can dump 40, 50, 60 hours in, that you can min-max, that you can show off to your friends, then Etrian Odyssey V is going to be a must-have for you. But just know that if you're somebody who is motivated by story, motivated by characters, it's not really here. It's kind of like how when you play Dynasty Warriors, it's a little boring, but then you play games based on Dynasty Warriors, like Hyrule Warriors, Fire Emblem Warriors, Gundam Warriors, and they're all a lot of fun because you're getting the same sort of grindy, repetitive gameplay, and you're getting that layer of something that you love on top of it. And can I just remind everybody that Persona Q2 is confirmed by Atlas. Anybody else excited? I know I am. If you're someone who's looking for a fun, challenging JRPG to invest your time into, then I give this game its full worth it price of $40. I didn't even scratch the surface with how much content there is in this game. You're gonna get your money's worth and then some, and it's gonna feel really good. It's gonna feel like an authentic sort of pen and paper Dungeons & Dragons experience. If you're someone who has never played an Etrian Odyssey before, if you've never really played a first-person dungeon crawler game before, and this game looks appealing to you, then I give the game about a $30. It's a very dense niche game. Definitely try to find it on sale for that $30 before you pick it up. I don't think this is something you need right away, especially with so many great games around the corner. But as soon as this thing drops to $29.99, I definitely think you should check it out, because it could be exactly what you're looking for. Now, if you've already played through some first-person dungeon crawlers, and you sort of get the gist, you've already played through some Etrian Odysseys, and you can fully accept that there's not going to be much story or much character development, and that kind of stuff just doesn't bother you, then I recommend checking the game out for about $20. Even though there are some noticeable improvements, I don't think the noticeable improvements are enough for me to recommend this game over others in the series. I think the Untold Legends games are better. I think obviously the Persona Q game is better. I don't think there's enough here to hold your attention if you've already gone through the motions of Etrian Odyssey before. But I do think it's still worth owning at $20 if you can find it for that price, because even for just that first 10 to 20 hours, it's gonna keep you engaged and hooked, unless you're not really into RPGs. Customizing that first party of 5 characters and seeing how far you can take it is definitely a $20 experience. And with that, I think I'm pretty much done. If you enjoyed the video, please leave it a like. Those things really do help me out. If you have any thoughts on the game or suggestions on what I should talk about next, leave it in the comment section below. And finally, if you found this video by accident, then subscribe to stay up to date on the latest Kudou news. I tried to make this video a lot shorter than I normally do. I know it was still over a 10-minute video, but normally videos that I make like this are like 40 minutes, and I definitely cut a lot of content to make sure it didn't get past 15. So if you enjoy this a little bit better, then let me know down in the comments. If you didn't enjoy it more, and you would prefer that I talk for 30-40 minutes, then leave that in the comments as well, and leave the name of some kind of fruit in the comments just to let me know that you got this far. Have a good night, guys. More content on the way.